Hi guys, welcome back to the Tarology 33 channel. Just to get something quick out of the way, if you guys would like to donate to the channel or to book a reading, you can check out the description part of this video for more info on how to do that. Just wanted to get that out of the way real quick. And next thing up is to say that this isn't actually a regular tarot reading. This is actually just more of a general video. You guys can probably tell from the title, the main purpose of this video is to help people out if they were feeling stuck in love in some way, shape, or form. So that would be, just any type of love relationship that you might have been in where you might just feel stuck asking yourself what the hell happened. For some of you, that could even include karmic connection, soulmate, twin flame, you name it. I feel that it's pretty universal, as far as how this can possibly benefit people that are in those situations. And this is actually a video that I've had in mind for a long time now, and I just felt like with the energies at play astrologically, it seems like a really good time to release it. We had that first full moon in the Libra last month, and that was during a Mercury retrograde, and Mercury was doing things with squaring Jupiter. It was conjunct Neptune, so there's probably a lot of confusion going on during that time. Maybe feeling something but not quite knowing how to express what you were feeling, maybe just being confused about your feelings in general. And now with that second full moon, and actually Mercury and Venus were squaring each other. I don't remember if I mentioned that. So there was a lot going on during that first full moon. The sun was conjunct Chiron. So it was really probably making people look at themselves versus another, and even if not in a particular relationship dynamic, just how they tend to be in relationships in general. And with this second full moon that we just had, I'm actually recording this on April 20th, people were probably looking at now, probably more able to express what they were feeling at that time, feeling a little bit clearer about it. But if not, and you're still stuck, I feel like this could be a video that could help you out. And, quite frankly, if you're someone who watches this video months from now and those energies have passed, since then, I think this would still be something helpful for you guys. So keep in mind as we refer to genders in this, that's, you can apply it to your specific situation however you need to. It's just going off the cards and their overall meanings. So don't get too caught up on that part. But to give you a general idea of what I was going for with this video, you see these specific cards laid out in front of us, and there's actually cards underneath them as well that we're going to talk about. They're all major arcana cards, and they're cards that I look at primarily when I'm looking at a love situation when it comes to tarot. So, if you notice, we have two feminine energies, two masculine energies. We have the Lover's card, the Chariot, and the Strength card. And like I said, there are cards underneath those as well that we'll talk about when we get a little bit deeper into the reading. So looking at these energies in general, these are some of the major players, basically, when you're thinking about love in a major arcana. And what I started to do, I was thinking about these types of things. Unless you're living under a rock, as a tarot reader, you hear people refer to soulmates, karmic connections, twin flames, right? And regardless of how you feel about those things in particular, I'm someone who has that thought process of, okay, this is a theme that keeps coming up. It's not going away, right? What can I possibly find in the tarot that would point to this dynamic? And in doing so, I was looking at the major arcana, and I was thinking about, why aren't these cards just numbered more straightforward as far as, okay, this is Aries, this is Taurus, this is Gemini? We do start to see that here, but there's a bit of a mix. There's some, okay, is this also a Taurus card because of Venus, so on and so forth. So I'm like, why wasn't it just laid out straightforward? Because clearly they're okay with having astrology and tarot commingle in that way when they assign specific zodiac signs to these cards. Now, what stood out to me was, okay, well, I'm looking at these four cards here. And what I started to notice was if we look at the Empress, that's number 3, and the Emperor, that's number 4. Adding those two numbers together, we have the number 7. Okay, now the number 7 is considered a very sacred number tied to religion, to luck. If you think about it in a slot machine, right, they'll show the triple sevens. That's a sign of a big jackpot. The seven wonders of the world, the seven chakras, 7-year cycles, 7 days in a week. I mean, I could go on forever about the significance of the number 7 and its importance. So I'm like, okay, we have the 3 and the 4 there. Add those two up, it's number 7, right? Now we have these two. We have the High Priestess and we have the Hierophant. That's the number 2 and the number 5. They also add up to number 7. Okay, so I'm not going to get too deep with the whole numerology aspect, but that's just something that stood out to me when I was looking at these cards, and I'm like, okay, well, what's the significance there, right? Next up, we'll look at these connections here. We have the Lover's card, which is number 6. And we also have the Devil, which is number 15, which, numerologically speaking, that reduces to a 6 as well. There's a lot of similarities in these two cards, right? Probably more similarities than differences. We see the female on the left, we see the male energy on the right, and the primary differences that stand out is the light in the background, right? We see 2 winged characters. We see one there, overlooking the connections. And, the primary difference there is I see the chains on the 2 people. We see how they're chained together, right? Now, this is a card of Capricorn and also Saturn in that regard. So I view this as a type of a karmic connection, okay? Now, this can also be viewed as a karmic connection. It depends on how you want to look at it, right? Is that a positive or a negative thing? So I'm looking at these 2 cards next, right? The 6s. And the 6 is actually a perfect number. It's the highest ranking perfect number. It has to do with development, time, harmony, productivity. It's a very important number in its own right as well. So when I think of the keyword that I think of there with the 6 is productivity, right? Because even if you're in this type of connection, there's a lesson to be learned from it. Like I said, after all, it is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is all about karmic lessons. Now, if we were to say female on the left, male energy on the right, in both of those cards, right? We have the same dynamic here. Female energy on the left, male energy on the right. Female energy on the left, male energy on the right. Now, if we look at them in numeric order, right? If you were to lay all the cards out in numeric order, what do you see? The 3 and the 4, the female and the male energy, they're chained together. That's the way I see it. They're right next to each other. So to me, that represents more this type of connection, right? We see the chains between these 2 people pretty clearly. So I attribute this card more to this connection. Whereas with the Lover's card, number 6, also, it's still a 6 energy, we see they're not chained together, right? Technically, they're still standing the same distance apart. But what stood out to me with that, with them not being chained together, I'm like, okay, well, who are the 2 people that are not chained together here? We have the 2 and the 5. There's some distance between them, right? So as I proceed with this video, that's going to be a primary focus of mine, which is to say, okay, I view these types of connections as more of a karmic connection, an emperor and an empress, okay? Now, that's not to say that they're not incapable of being a successful couple. It's not to say that they can't exist in harmony, but primarily these types of connections are meant to teach lessons more than anything. And the Empress energy and the Emperor energy, right? Looking at the 2 again. So think about an emperor, right? An emperor, the whole point of an emperor is even when they were in charge of a kingdom, let's say, it wasn't enough. They needed to have more. They had to get more. It's a manifesting energy, but it's also, I don't want to say necessarily aggressive, but it's going to keep trying to expand. So think about that type of connection in a romantic relationship. That could be problematic, right? They have that mentality of conquering something. Okay, I'm going to conquer this. This is the newest thing in my path that I want. I'm going to get it and conquer it. And then the Empress energy. maybe not perceived as much as coming out of ego as you might think the Emperor would, but even so, they're about receptivity and the expectation of things coming to them. Okay, so I think it goes without saying that you could probably see where some problems could come about in a type of connection like that, where those are the two energies that these people are bringing into the relationship, right? And another differentiation between this couple and this couple is also the fact that, here you can see it's pretty clearly laid out that, okay, this is meant to represent a feminine energy, this is meant to represent a masculine energy, right? Whereas here, okay, the Hierophant, we could say that's a male, High Priestess, we could say that's a female, but just from the way they're dressed alone, right, the gender, the energies, are they masculine, are they feminine, stand out a lot less, right? So something to keep in mind there too, and we'll talk about that a little more when we get to number 8. But anyway, so getting back to these two. So what's the energy beneath these cards, right? If we want to look at these cards a little bit deeper, the same way we looked at the 6s, right? Number 6, 15 reducing to a 6. If we look at the 4 on a deeper level, what energy do we see there? Death, right? Now you could see some symbolism in the artwork there if you relate it to these types of connections, right? Usually there's the one person who moves on from the connection, and if we think of that Emperor energy, again, like I said, they want to conquer something and move on. So if I could get it to focus, if we look at this, let's say that this is the Empress, right? And she's under the expectation that, okay, this is the relationship, we're going to build a family. It's like the image of it might get shattered, right? And then you might say that this could be the High Priestess here, right? So what is that moving towards? Moving away from this energy towards the Hierophant energy, okay? Just something to keep in mind there. We'll come back to that in a bit, but I'll keep the Death card up top now. Looking at the Empress energy, what's the next 3 energy? We have the Hanged Man, okay? So, to me anyway, if you think about these connections, especially I would say, not to single out the twin flame crowd, but I feel like that tends to happen the most with the twin flame crowd, right? They say, oh, this person ghosted me, they blocked me on social media, they got in another relationship with someone else, they married someone else, they won't answer my calls. The list goes on and on of things, right? So what does that look like? The Emperor energy departs from the relationship, leaves it behind, and then the feminine energy is often left stuck, right? The Hanged Man. You could see the symbolism in the artwork there. So that's what I feel tends to happen with these connections, okay? Now, the next thing I want to talk about before we move on to this connection here is the number 7 in the tarot. So, as I already discussed, the 3 and the 4 adding up to 7 and the 2 and the 5 adding up to 7. There's 2 7 energies in the major arcana as well. We have the Chariot and we have the Tower. Okay, and I already covered the meaning of 7, its importance in numerology and just every area of life, right? So what happens here? So primarily what happens with these types of connections is this comes across as a Tower moment, right? That seems like things were going great, then all of a sudden things just poof, out of thin air, it seems to fall apart. And the Tower card, I always tell people, for those of you who are normal subscribers of mine and watch my videos, when I talk about the Tower, I say it's about divine intervention. Because what ends up happening is, again, like I said, the devil energy. These are karmic connections, and if you're in that type of connection, or you've been in this connection repeatedly, and maybe a light bulb's going off to an extent where you're like, yes, this does feel like the dynamic I'm in, don't beat yourself up over it. The primary thing to keep in mind is, again, this is a Saturn-ruled card and energy. Saturn wants you to learn lessons, and it's very stern. It's like, okay, you're not going to learn it. This is what comes after the devil, right? After the devil, 15, we have number 16, the Tower. So it's like, okay, it's trying to break you free of those chains and say, okay, here you go. Here's what you need to see. This is what you thought the connection was. Here's what it actually is, right? And the whole point of that is, okay, after that happens, you're supposed to move forward, and ideally you're free of those chains and you realize you learn the lesson, right? Usually in these connections the lessons are about self-love, right? For the more feminine energy, and for the male energy it's like, you don't have the right to treat someone else in that way either, right? So there's lessons for both sides to learn, don't get me wrong. Generally speaking, the audience would not be someone in this energy. Typically they're not going to watch these types of videos because, again, they're on that conquering conquest type of energy where, oh, I'm on to the next. Whereas it's more the feminine energy, so I'm leaning it a little bit more towards your energy, as far as you guys are the ones more likely to watch these kinds of videos for insight anyway, right? And hey, I'm a male doing tarot readings, so obviously I'm not saying that males aren't into that or that males are more feminine per se for watching it, but I'm just saying, the energies that you're bringing to the table. So here you are, right? The devil energy tries to break you free from that. And the thing with Saturn is, some people tell you they have easier experiences with Saturn than others, right? Because it insists you learn the lesson. So, okay, it's going to break you free. After the 7 comes the 8. So after the Tower card, we have the Star. I refer to this card as the dissolution of ego, okay? Which is to say, okay, sorry to break it to you guys, this is a little bit of the tough love section for the empaths, but it's a bit of ego in these types of connections. When you're going down a list, all right, let's say if someone asked you, hey, tell me the attributes of your ideal person, right? A person that you'd want to be in a relationship with. Now, let's be fair and say you're not going to get those things necessarily, right? But everyone has an idea of, hey, this would be a great person for me. No one's ever going to say, oh, they're going to block me on social media, they're going to ghost me, they're going to, cheat on me, they're going to get in a relationship with someone else, they're not going to answer my calls, they're not. None of those things are going to be on your list, right? But when the universe is giving you those signs that, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't actually your person. You think it is, but maybe it's not, right? Because these, again, like I said, these connections, the whole point, like I said, with the 6 energy, one of the key words in it is development and harmony. So they serve their purpose. The point is, how stubborn are you going to be about learning the lesson that there was there, right? So usually there's a very strong physical pull towards these people. And the whole point is, it's to learn the lesson. Think about it. If someone you had zero attraction for tried to treat you the way that these people in these toxic connections would, you'd let it roll right off your back. Wouldn't even give it a second thought. Nothing gets learned in the process, right? So, again, if you're in that type of energy, don't beat yourself up over it. It happens and it serves a purpose. But again, when you're refusing to learn the lesson, you get the Tower moment, and the point of this Tower moment is to free you from ego. So if you ever hear that term, naked in your truth, that's kind of what the Star is. It's like, okay, it's going to free you from your ego, and now it's up to you how you want to move forward from there. All right, so I think that's enough of a breakdown of these cards, right? Maybe I'll end up going back to it at some point. Probably should have organized this in my head a little bit better, but it's been something on my mind for a long time that I've wanted to speak on, but now it just felt like the energy was right to do so. So we've covered them. We'll just move them out of the way for now. Like I said, maybe we'll come back to them at some point, but I think we covered the main ideas there, okay? So now we're talking about these two, okay? The Hierophant and the High Priestess. Now, actually, see, here I go already. I'm already going to grab this card. So let's think about if you were to break those chains, right? If she was to break away from the chains as the Empress energy and move away from those chains, she's going to end up to the left, which would put her at 2. If he were to break away from the chains that had him in the Emperor position, he breaks away from those chains, he's going to end up at 5. Okay? So now you're free of the chains and you're in this energy. Now, if this energy, we see there are 2 people and there's no need to have them chained together, right? There are 2 people that are fully confident and dependent on themselves, right? So they're like, okay, we don't have a need for each other, because think about those energies. Again, the Emperor type energy might use you for sex, let's say, right? And then the feminine energy might say, oh, well, this person needs to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, all of these things that they say the person needs to do. But again, that's almost trying to exert your free will on someone else's, right? It's like saying that, oh, I want them to do all these things. Okay, well, then they're not going to be the same person that they are, right? And that's what tends to be missing from those connections is logic, okay? It's a very passionate connection, karmic, where logic tends to go out the window, right? Like if, again, like I said, if you look at those connections and you say to yourself, oh, okay, yeah, you know what, you're right. If someone did ask me to make a list of the ideal traits I want in a character, I wouldn't want them cheating on me, blocking me on social media, ghosting me, all, again, I'm not going to repeat myself too much, but you're not going to say that those are things you want. But those are energies that person's bringing to you. And for some, the logic will kick in where you say, you know what? That's not the person for me. I'm out. You're just going to walk away from it, right? You're going to say, this clearly isn't me and this person are not meant for each other. I'm out. But then when you stay in that energy of, oh, they need to do this, 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 and this, then okay, then instead of you realizing this isn't the person for me, now you're trying to exert your force on them and say, no, I want them to do these things. I want them to act the way I want them to act. And not to say that they don't need to change those things, right? Those are toxic behaviors. But again, that's where I say the tough love for the empaths comes in, where it's to say, well, it's a bit of a toxic behavior to expect someone else to change and act the way you want them to act too, rather than say, this isn't my person, I'm going to go find who is. So something to keep in mind there. All right. I could feel some of you getting a little bit angry at that part, but I'm just saying. I mean, you could try to argue it if you want to, but and again, like I said, it's human, right? Not trying to bash anyone either. Like I said, we've all been in that type of connection at one point or another. But anyway, when you get to the High Priestess energy, like I said, the clear feminine lines are a bit more blurred with these two cards, right? We can tell from the names, yes, High Priestess, Hierophant, okay, male energy, female energy. But if you look at the way they're dressed, right, it's a little bit harder to make out their characteristics as clearly male, clearly female. Like think about the Emperor has the beard, right? The Empress has that long flowing hair. Very clear masculine, feminine representations, right? If you look here, they actually look somewhat similar, right? You can't clearly tell, okay, this is 100% masculine, 100% feminine. And to me, that represents the growth that takes place for those people, right? You free yourself from just the ego attachments, and you're like, okay, I'm a fully, I embrace my masculinity and femininity as a whole, right? I'm a freestanding person who's comfortable with both sides. I don't necessarily need anyone for anything, right? So let's look at the energies beneath these cards, like we did with the 3 and the 4. So we have Justice, right? So there we have, again, this is someone very balanced, okay? Whereas the Hanged Man, they're forced into that position of looking to regain their balance, right? They're looking at something from a different perspective to say, okay, how can I get my balance here? And now if we look underneath the Hierophant, we have the Temperance card. This is another card that's all about balance, okay? And what I will say as well is this type of connection tends to be a lot stronger because it has, again, going back to the number 7. Follow me on this one. This is a fixed energy. This is a mutable energy. And then the Justice card is a cardinal energy. So those are the 3 modalities. And now you have to also have the 4 elements, okay? So here we have water, we have air, we have fire, we have earth. So we also have the 4 elements. You have your 7 there. So that's actually this energy, the Chariot, okay, where you actually get that forward movement. If you look, there's a clear balance there, right? What one person, so they have black and white, where this person has black, the other has white, and vice, you know what I mean? So basically you put them together, okay, they actually have a balance between them. And the Chariot, that's more of a moon-ruled energy, okay? So, moon is often referred to as very important in emotional connections, right? But you get that forward movement there, and what happens with that is, hey, we are still humans at the end of the day. What comes after 7? You have 8. Okay, now in some cards, this is even referred to as the lust card. But if you look at this connection, what happens here is, to me, this represents the taming of ego, okay? With the devil energy followed by the tower and the star, you know, you're letting ego take hold of you. Again, think about the emperor energy, the empress energy, right? We already discussed that. So in those situations, you have to be separated from the ego. But if you can show that you can control your ego, right, which is very important when you're dealing with a romantic relationship, no matter what, whether you want to say they're your twin flame or what, it's still two independent people with free will. Okay, so when you start to let ego lead the way, you're going to run into these problems. So it's like you can have that healthy ego, right? You can tame it, and things can continue to move forward. All right. So, I mean, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I think that covered more or less everything. Like I said, hopefully this, seeing it broken down this way, because to me it's funny, like people always turn to tarot for understanding of these dynamics, right? But okay, this gives you an explanation of you and the other person, right? And then maybe you still get caught up. Because, okay, you might even decide, all right, well, yeah, that's not the person for me. I'm going to move on. And then you end up with the same type of relationship dynamic over and over and over, right? That's why I said the stuck energy. So that's why I wanted to mention that. Well, yeah, like I said, hopefully you guys get what I'm saying there, as far as we have all three modalities and all four elements represented here. So we get that 7 energy, the healthy 7 energy. Whereas it's lacking with this connection. Let me just show you that too. With the connection of the Emperor Empress, right? We have, all right. So you have some fixed energy, some cardinal energy, some mutable energy. Okay, cool, right? But there's an element missing here. We're missing the element of air. Like I said, logic tends to go out the window with these types of connections. These are those connections where you know, if someone asks you, okay, tell me about this person. Oh, this is the love of my life. Oh, tell me about them. Well, they ghost me. They block me on social media. They're cheating on me. They're in a relationship with someone else. The other person's going to look at you like, right, okay. Interesting choice for a love partner, but all right. You do you, right? But you get what I'm saying there. It's not a coincidence, in my opinion anyway, that the element of air is missing here. See, people try to say, oh, you can't have logic and love intertwine. You can't have just logic, right? And it'd be a boring as hell relationship, quite frankly, if that's all you're bringing to the table. But again, this type of connection has all four elements, okay? You need that balanced logical perspective, and not just for, you know, for the female energy or the male energy. It has to be both. You know, the male energy has to say, is it really right to treat another human being in this way, right? And then the answer is typically going to be no. And then for the female energy, you have to check yourself and say, why the hell am I putting up with this, right? So something to keep in mind there. That's where the logic, and of all the air cards, it happens to be the balance, right? The Libra energy, which is a relationship house. This is just where we had those 2 full moons too. So again, like I said, hopefully this gives you guys some perspective and helps you out. Once again, if you guys want to donate to the channel or book a reading with me, you could check out the description for more info on that. And for my normal subscribers, I'm going to start working on the May videos over the weekend, so they should pop up in the next few days or so. All right, so, and for those of you who want to check out my Instagram, we have a little bit more fun with astrology and tarot there too, so you can check that out. That's just at Tarology33. All right, and we'll wrap up there. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.